I'm doing my project on wrestling. I started wrestling when I was in the 6th grade and have been doing it ever since. I got into it because a year before that, my parents and my friends got me to do jiu-jitsu, and then once I got to middle school, it seemed like a good idea to start wrestling. Here's why wrestling is important. Wrestling helps with a lot of self-defense since you have a basis on how to protect yourself, giving you a better reaction. Wrestling is a very important part of mixed martial arts. Wrestling can be used in fighting and jiu-jitsu. Many UFC fighters have a background in wrestling. Other than that, wrestling is a very good idea for your mental and physical health. Since you practice most of the days of the week, it will help you grow your strength and your endurance. Also, your mental thought, teaching you to push through even if you think you can't. Wrestling teaches you how to work hard and get better. Wrestling is great winning is a great confidence booster, and losing shows you how to work on. Let's start with the history of wrestling. Wrestling is known to be one of the oldest sports. The first evidence of wrestling in history was found around 15,000 years ago. The evidence was shown in cave paintings in Egypt and Babylonia. The paintings showed wrestling moves that are now part of our modern wrestling. Egypt was one of the main countries that showed a fascination with wrestling. They had many competitions, and the rules and the results of these competitions were found in cave paintings. This cave was called the Tomb of Benin Hassan. Another place that was very big in wrestling was Greece. For the Greeks, wrestling was an art and a science that many people took seriously. The youth of Greece trained wrestling as they grew up. The ones that made it a lifestyle would have matches in the sand. They would cover themselves in olive oil and some in sand. They would then wrestle naked. The matches were related to the style that we know now as freestyle. The winner was the first person to get the other one to the ground. After the match, they would use a striggle to clean themselves. Wrestling was part of the ancient Olympics in 708 BC. Wrestling was placed after everything else, making it the main event. The winner would be crowned as a champion. One of the first well-known wrestlers was Milone of Croton, who won many of the Olympic Games and many other competitions. I guess after that, he was eaten by a lion. In the game, the winner was the person who either took the other person down 3 times or had to hold the other person down on the ground until they gave up by holding the right arm up. Other times that wrestling was big was for the Romans, where many people tried it and the soldiers would practice it. Then during the Renaissance, many of the royals would wrestle, also with many writers and artists would try it. Many times people tried to bring back the ancient Olympics. It didn't really work out until the actual Olympics came around in 1896. This was done by Baron Pierre de Coubertin. Wrestling was part of the 10 sports that was put into the first Olympics. At first, there would only be 5 wrestlers with no weight categories, which is definitely changed from now. The wrestling style was known as Greco, which came from the French in 1830. They brought together wrestling and matches in the circus. They started flat hand wrestling, which is in countries in Europe started calling Greco-Roman. Here's a picture of the 1896 Olympics, which was done in Athens. Here's what the actual wrestling looked like in the Olympics. Another style of wrestling that was introduced was freestyle in 1904. It was made up by a group of wrestlers and was used in many different wrestling competitions. The first time it was used in the Olympics was in 1908. Wrestling started growing fast after that. Different wrestling associations started being made, like the United World Wrestling and the Federation of Wrestling Styles, and also NCAA Wrestling started in 1912. Then USA Wrestling started in 1983, which now holds the tournaments that people go to now. Here's wrestling at a high school level. In high school, in the US, we wrestle folk style, which just means it's wrestling just with some different rules and modification when compared to college and other styles. During the season, which is in the winter, the team goes to dual meets and tournaments. The dual meets are for the whole team, where it puts one team against another. They would have 14 varsity matches for the 14 weight classes. Each match, the winner would give a certain amount of points to the team, depending on how they win. 6 points if they win by a pin or if the other person forfeited. 5 points if they win by a tech, meaning they won by 15 points. 4 points by a major, which means they won by 8 points. Then 3 points for a win just by normal points less than 8. Teams go against the other teams in their league to see which one is the best. Then for the individual wrestlers, they go to tournaments throughout the year to get better and to get a better seeding in the next one. Then at the end of each year, for each varsity wrestler, they go to a league tournament where they can go against many of the other kids in their weight class and league. It's different for many places, but for our league, you must get 3rd place or better to move on to sections. Then section is a much bigger tournament with more teams and schools from the area. The top 3 from each weight class would move on to state. California has many sections, including different ones in the north, central, and south. In the south, after the sections, they must wrestle and place at masters before wrestling at state. State is the biggest tournament for the season, including all the top placers in the whole state for each weight class. Here's for college wrestling. College wrestling has many different divisions for the schools at different levels of wrestling. The main 3 are the NCAA, D1, D2, and D3, D1 being the highest level for wrestling. Other divisions are NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA. NJCAA being junior college wrestling. College wrestling is similar to folk style, just with some little adjustments in scoring and the moves that can be done. During the season, the college has dual meets just like high school. The dual meets meet up with in between schools in their divisions, like NCAA and D1. There are only 10 weight classes in college. They don't normally cross. The tournaments are also similar. The purpose is to get a better seeding in the last championship, so they can do better. For the NCAA, there has a championship for each division. Then for junior college, they just have a state tournament. Here are some styles for wrestling. Let's start with folk style. This style of wrestling is used in middle school and high school wrestling in the U.S. The basics of folk style match has 2-minute rounds for 3 rounds. Overtime applies when 2 of the wrestlers are tied after the 3 rounds. In the first round, the wrestlers start standing. The goal is to try to take them down and pin them, or get the most points. In the second round, the ref will flip a coin to see if someone wants to choose top, bottom, or standing. Here's what a coin flip would look like. This is what it would look like if you chose top or bottom. In round 3, the other person gets to choose. The winner is the person who gets the most points or gets the pin. The pin is achieved by getting both shoulders on the ground, and the person controls them. If overtime is reached, they will have 1 minute to get 1 takedown. If that doesn't happen, the second round and the third round is reached. One person will have to be put on bottom and needs to escape. Here are some differences in college wrestling. The first round for college is 3 minutes compared to 2 minutes. Then when it comes to getting points from getting the person on their back, college wrestlers can get up to 4, while high school wrestlers can only get to 3. Also, college wrestlers get riding points. It means when they stay on the top for more than a minute. Now let's go to Greco. Greco is a completely different type of wrestling. Greco for high school and college wrestlers is done in the off season. Also, Greco is wrestled in the Olympics. For Greco, the rule is that you can't touch or use your legs. If you do this, it is a penalty for the other person, and they would get a point. If you do it to them many times, you would forfeit the match. The goal is the same thing, to get points and pin them. The match has 2 rounds, and each one is 3 minutes. Both rounds start while standing. When you start, the stance is a little bit different. Here's Greco compared to folk style. Throws are used since you can't touch the legs. Different amounts of points are given to the different type of throws. If it's just a straight to the ground, it is 2 points. Then it's 4 points if the person goes to their back during the takedown, and 5 points if the person goes straight over the person and fully around. The ground game looks a little different compared to folk style. Here it is. The person on top tries to get rolls for 2 points. If no rolls are done for 15 seconds, they will start again from standing. Techs in Greco are much easier since it's only 10 points and the points are easier to get. Now let's go to freestyle wrestling. Freestyle is like a mixture between folk style and Greco. It's most like Greco. The main thing that's similar to folk style is that you can grab and use the legs. So you can do double legs and leg trips like you can in folk style. Other than that, the rules for freestyle are the same exact for Greco except for the leg penalties. This introduces cool new moves to use for takedowns and also for rolls. The leg lace is one of them, where you can grab the legs and just roll them, giving you points. This could be done many times over and over again to get the tech, which it can be for a very quick match. Here's the form of a leg lace. Let's talk about weight classes. Weight classes must be used to have a fair match. Wrestlers must be exactly on or under to wrestle. Classes are usually 7 to 10 pounds away from each other. For high school boys, it starts at 106 and goes to 285. For girls, it goes to 101 to 235. For each, there is a total of 14 weight classes. For college wrestling, there's only 10 weight classes because it starts at 125 and goes up to 285. For adults in Greco and freestyle, the classes are in kilograms. For freestyle men's, it is from 57 kilograms to 125. And for Greco men's, it's from 55 to 130. And for women's wrestling, it's from 50 to 76. Each of these have 10 weight classes. Now let's go into the points. Here's the basic point system for wrestling. A normal takedown is 2 points, a reversal is 2 points, an escape is 1 point, then near fall it can be 2 or 3 points, and then penalties can be 1 or 2. Let's go into some wrestling moves. For the takedowns, there are 3 main ones: the double leg, the high C, and the single leg. That one was the double leg, where he went to one knee, grabbed both legs, then took him down. That one was the high C takedown. It's the same movement as the double leg, except for at first you grab one leg and then switch to a double. That one was the single leg, where the person comes around, grabs one leg, and either tries to stand up with it, or they try to push him down or pull him. Another type of takedown would be a throw, like a head and arm or a arm throw. This could be 2 points, or sometimes if you get them to your back, it could be 5 points.
Back step in.
Another way to get the 2 points for a takedown is by defending the shot, by putting your hips down on them and blocking the shot. After you get the takedown, you're going to land on top, and then the goal from there is to push them down and flip them over to get the pin. Some moves used to flip the person over to get the pin are a half Nelson, a cradle, or an armbar. This is the half Nelson. This is the cradle. This is how an armbar would look like. Now for the bottom moves. The goal for the person on bottom is to either escape so they can start again at standing, or get a reversal so they can get back on top. The main 3 bottom moves would be a stand up to an escape, a reversal, or a sit out to an escape. That was a reversal, where the person sits out to grab the other person's leg and pull themselves on top. That was the sit out to an escape. That was a stand up, where the person stands up, breaks the grips, and escapes. The person on top can defend the stand up with a mat return by doing this. Now let's go into the difference between jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Many of the moves in wrestling can be used to get points in jiu-jitsu, but not many moves can be used in wrestling from jiu-jitsu. This is because jiu-jitsu has submissions, where they try to submit the other person by making them tap out or give up. In wrestling, that is illegal. Another difference is that in wrestling, being on your back is really bad, while sometimes in jiu-jitsu, that can help you. But similarity is many of the takedowns and throws are used in both jiu-jitsu and wrestling.